What's up, gentlemen? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. In this video, we are going to get into the raw reality of safety in Colombia versus the safety in Brazil, because this is something that I have been asked about, and so I am going to share my experience. Now, if you're new to the channel, I'm Joshua Hall. I've lived and traveled abroad for around a decade now. I've been to over 50 different countries, and I'm not the typical weekend warrior kind of dude. I go to these places for multiple months at a time. I obtain residencies, and I actually plant flags in these places. So I'm not just blowing through all these countries. Now, with all that said, these are two of the places I have spent time. Now, before we get into this video, smash the like button. Costs you nothing, means the world to me, really helps me out with the algorithm, and I would truly appreciate it. Now, with all that said, let's get into the topic at hand, and that is the safety of Colombia versus Brazil. And I've been asked this because on a statistical level, Colombia is much safer than Brazil. And most people are curious about Medellin compared to a place like Sao Paulo or Rio de Janeiro. Now, one thing I do have to mention is I have spent significantly more time in Colombia than Brazil, which is why I don't talk a lot about Brazil on my channel, because I haven't spent a ton of time there. And I've mentioned numerous times on my channel before that if someone spends a week, a month in a place, I really don't think they should be making a bunch of content and commentary on that place. I really don't even think you should make commentary and content on a place unless you've been there for at least 6 months. Like, I see people making these pros and cons lists of living someplace for 3 months, and realistically, they're probably not even living there. They're probably on a tourist visa, but that is a topic for a whole nother video. So keep that in mind with the content of this video. Now, I want to start this off with a story from Colombia. It's actually a fairly common story. So you're probably obviously aware of the things that occur when trying to date the women of Colombia. But in addition to this, there are other common stories you will hear, and that is as it relates to burglary. So, for example, I know some people who were in a fairly touristy and fairly popular area of Colombia, specifically Medellin. And it's a fairly well-established, well-to-do area. And they were out recording videos, having a good time. And these people aren't like influencers or anything like that. It's just like personal content, selfie of them with their girlfriend or wife or what may have you. And someone came and stole their phone, and a cop happened to be nearby, and they went and told this cop, hey, they stole my phone, blah, 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 can you help me get it, blah, blah, blah. And the cops literally started laughing in their face, and they're like, no dar papaya. And we're pretty much telling these people, you deserved it, too bad, sucks for you kind of thing. And so here is the reason I told you that story. It doesn't matter if you're in a well-off area. It doesn't matter if it's a touristy area. It doesn't matter if it's a popular area. You are still at risk. And on top of that, the cops aren't really going to do anything. They are going to blame you for showing off your iPhone or your watch or your necklace or what may have you. So they aren't going to be super incentivized or super helpful in remedying that situation. As I mentioned, they may even go as far as to laugh in your face and flat out tell you, it's your fault, shouldn't have done that. And in comparison to a place like Brazil, in the touristy areas, in the well-to-do areas, you are generally safe. Much safer than the places in Colombia. And that's what I wanted to get across in this video. On a statistical level, if you just look at the statistics and you compare Colombia to Brazil, well, Colombia, much safer than Brazil. But looking at statistics doesn't give you the full picture of what it's like to actually be feet on the ground in these places. In Colombia, you're probably going to be at a higher risk because you are in those touristy, well-to-do areas, whereas in Brazil, they actually protect you, police those areas heavily, and enforce the laws of that country, especially in those areas. Now, if you go outside of those areas, then yeah, it is probably more dangerous than a place like Colombia. And I don't know if dangerous is the best word to use, but you are more likely to get pickpocketed or robbed or things of that nature than in most places in Colombia. That is certainly true. But if you're watching this video, you are probably going to be in the nicer areas in both of these countries. Now, obviously, if you're not in the nicer areas of either of these countries, this video really won't apply to you, because Colombia is probably a safer bet, but neither of these places is safe. Let's be very perfectly clear about this. But assuming you are an American with US dollars who can afford to go to these places, you're probably going to be in the nicer areas. Where in Colombia, you're probably going to be targeted for being in that nicer area. In Brazil, much more heavily policed, and you are going to be insulated from that crime. Obviously, as soon as you leave those touristy protected areas, then that is where you are going to run into more issues. Or if you go to like big gatherings on the beach or things of that nature, that's where you're going to run into those issues. Whereas in Colombia, you're going to have to be on your P's and Q's 24/7 no matter where you go. And so when I get asked questions about which is safer, Colombia or Brazil, typically I comment and I say, well, on a statistical level, Brazil is less safe than Colombia. There is undoubtedly more crime per capita in Brazil than in Colombia. But if you are a tourist, you're probably safer in this country, Brazil in this case, because of the police presence, and the crime is insulated, and you are insulated from the crime in that country. Whereas you're not so insulated in Medellin specifically. Alright, so that's going to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. What has your experience been, especially if you have been to both of these places? Like I said, I've spent significantly more time in Colombia, so maybe the Brazil gang can correct me or what may have you in the comments down below. And I will see you guys in the next video. And if you haven't hit that like button already, then please do so real quickly. And with all that said, see you soon. Peace. Much love.